I am one of those rare people. The kind you've probably never even heard of. The kind that really don't like to admit when they're wrong. I know that's a shocking revelation, so I'll give you a few seconds to really let that one sink in. But it's true. I'm of a rare breed that likes to be right. And so, even when I sometimes realize that I may have been wrong, I'll just pretend I didn't notice, or gloss over it, and not even acknowledge it. But I just can't do that this time. No, this time, once I realized how wrong I was, I felt the guilt bubbling up in my stomach, and I realized I needed to do something quick before it gnaws away at me from the inside and brings me crashing down. I was wrong about Starfield. Maybe it was the polished veneer of a finished game, a shocking new capability that Bethesda Game Studios has never before managed at release. Maybe it was the shipbuilding system, which offered many hours of pointless tinkering, which is perfect for my weird lizard brain. Maybe it was just the fact that I have been starved of a Bethesda open world RPG since Fallout 4, which came out 8 years ago, or a good Bethesda RPG since Skyrim, which came out 12 years ago. Maybe I wanted so bad for it to be that next crack-like game that I can't put it down, and I willingly pour thousands of hours of my finite life into that I just overlooked the flaws. But whatever the case is, I was wrong about Starfield. In my hubris, I decided to review the game and sing its praises. Was I lying? No, of course not. I always strive to be honest when reviewing games. I am never a shill. After all, shills are paid, and I mysteriously do all of this essentially for free. I was giving my honest opinions, but that's just the thing. An opinion, even when honest and from the heart, can be wrong. That shouldn't be a revelation, but I feel that it likely is to a lot of you. Opinions can be objectively wrong, especially if they're coming from a flawed perspective. A colorblind person may have the opinion that the sky is green, but that is coming from a flawed perspective. That being that they do not see color like nearly everyone else does. So their opinion is inherently and objectively wrong. A person may think that Burger King qualifies as food, but legally it doesn't meet the bare minimum requirements to be suitable for human consumption, so they would be objectively wrong. And I said that the game was good, and I even gave it an absurdly high rating, one that I have withheld from far better games, and I genuinely meant it. But now, that 8.5 out of 10 haunts me. Like the ghost of the Victorian schoolgirl that lives in my basement, it sits lurking in the corner, reminding everyone that will listen that its governess drowned it in a well. But why do I feel this way? I wasn't lying. Those were honest opinions. I do enjoy the shipbuilding system. I do think it's the most polished launch Bethesda has ever had. I do think the music is pretty good, and the choices are interesting. I do think the companions work well for what they are, and I enjoy the skill and perk system. All of those things that I highlighted as positive aspects of the game are opinions that I still hold. So why does it feel like the biggest regret of my life to score this game in the first impressions review after a measly 40 hours of gameplay? Well, because after playing 241.2 hours by October 16th, I would rather put my own dick in a meat grinder than launch the game again. I have no interest in it. Absolutely zero. Not even nude mods or a Starfield port of the lusty Argonian maid could drag me back into this game. It is a phenomenon I have never experienced. From Morrowind to Oblivion to Fallout 3, Skyrim, and even Fallout 4. I have never before felt this way. Even after years of those releases, I'm still constantly tempted to jump back into any of these games, to feel the things I felt, and to see the things I've seen. But Starfield has destroyed that feeling. Bethesda is no longer the sexy temptress dragging me from the deck of my ship to drown me in their irresistible atmosphere. Now they are little more than a 60-year-old from Florida trying to convince me that they were just recently mistaken for the sister of their 20-year-old granddaughter. It's not even the obviously glaring surface level flaws that this game has, of which there are many that make it such a bad game. And that's the thing. I've done a complete 180. I have gone from this being one of the best games I've played since Red Dead 2, a horrifyingly stupid thing that I said in my review, and one that makes me long for the release, and one that makes me long for the sweet release from this mortal coil, to wanting to uninstall it and never risk accidentally launching it again. And don't get me wrong, these are not small flaws. The game is, despite its seemingly finished state at launch, the most half-baked attempt at a game that I've ever seen Bethesda release. When you get right down to it, the spaceflight in this game is totally pointless. and it is a game about space exploration, where arguably the best system they have is shipbuilding. The entire game is just a series of short, tedious, and often, even worse, painfully boring scenes, typically composed entirely of walking and or jumping to some copy-pasted base, all sandwiched between so many loading screens that it would make 10 years ago Bethesda blush with shame. Seriously, just off the top of my head, without even digging in to make sure I can roast it as adequately as I probably should, if you want to get on your ship and fly somewhere, you have to go through the loading screen to get onto your ship, go through the loading screen to sit down in the captain's chair, go through the loading screen to take off into orbit, go through a loading screen to jump to another system, go through the loading screen to land on a planet, go through another loading screen to stand up from your captain's chair, and then go through another loading screen just to exit your ship. That's 7 different loading screens for the thing that you will do more often than anything else in this game, which is travel from one planet to another. That is, of course, unless you want to bypass your ship entirely and just fast travel straight to a place you've already been before. Then it's just one loading screen away. A fact that makes ship travel the biggest inconvenience of a space exploration game. And what's even worse, like I said, the shipbuilding and customization is actually very fun and engaging. And the ship combat isn't even terrible. I kind of like it. With the power prioritization and different weapon types and all that, it's actually quite fun. However, flying your ship in this game is totally pointless. It can't be used in atmosphere, so you just walk everywhere, no matter how cool your ship is. You can't physically travel from planet to planet, even within a solar system, because it just physically isn't possible in the game. You can only ever fly in the orbit of the celestial body that you are currently nearby. You can't even fly to the planet's moon. You have to fast travel, because they do not exist in the same fishbowl. So even if you spend millions of credits and hours customizing the perfect Imperial Star Destroyer, the coolest thing you can do with it is watch it take off and land in the 3-second cutscenes that make up the beginning and end of those particular loading screens. Nothing else matters. And all of that is just compounding the fact that there is next to nothing unique in the entire game. This game is so procedurally generated that it makes the initial release of No Man's Sky look like a genuine handcrafted labor of love. Starfield should be used as the new definition of all breadth and zero depth. Several years ago, when I made a video saying how Elder Scrolls 6 will be a huge letdown if and when it eventually releases, because Bethesda is proving that they are no longer capable of even releasing games within the average lifespan of a gamer, much less releasing good games. This is exactly what I was predicting. With every new game, they prove more and more that they do not understand the one thing that they still had the ability to do by the release of Skyrim, and that was build atmosphere. Even by that game, which I still love, they had already lost any semblance of being a true RPG, because in all of their games, you are just a master of everything and everyone. They have never been strong with narratives or meaningful choices, or clever dialogue. Their graphics have always been laughably bad and outdated compared to everything else released around them, and the facial animations have always been the butt of pretty much everyone's jokes. But one thing they could do was suck you into a game and make you want to pick things up and read them, or to walk into random caves just to see what was there. You wanted the bard to sing Ragnar the Red when you walked through a tavern to talk to someone about something. It didn't matter when or why. All that mattered was existing in the world. Bethesda games do not have that anymore. At least Fallout 4 still had the unique radio stations with the banger music, and you could still find skeletons holding a plunger and a newspaper, still in the exact position they were in 200 years ago when they were killed, but for some reason not vaporized in their half-standing house when a nuke fell ambiguously near them. I'm not even going to discuss Fallout 76 because we're so far past that with Starfield. Even 76 isn't their low point. Starfield has less than a dozen unique handcrafted environments. Everything else is copy-pasted raider bases, civilian settlements, or star temples. That is exactly the same as every single other one that you have ever explored. I played this game for nearly 250 hours, and I promise it does not get better. The repetitiveness and shallowness of the randomly generated crap isn't cute, it's not charming, and it certainly isn't fun. And the New Game Plus mode does not save it. With every new universe, it only gets exponentially worse. Starfield doesn't even feel like a joke. Starfield feels like a threat, or a statement from the Bethesda team that is meant to communicate their utter contempt for their fans. This feels like their response to years of people, millions of people, asking for just one thing, The Elder Scrolls 6. And I know there are tons of Fallout fans who want Fallout 4 to be released, but unfortunately Fallout 4 was already released, and you just don't like it. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it is what it is. Since Fallout 3, you have gotten 2 Fallout games from Bethesda. It isn't my fault that they aren't as good as Fallout 3. It's Bethesda Game Studios' fault. But since Skyrim, there hasn't been an Elder Scrolls game, and Elder Scrolls Online doesn't count. In fact, I blame that cookie-cutter MMO for all of these problems. That game is, and was, the death of Bethesda single-player games. I've been saying so for years, and it only ever gets more and more true. Bethesda Game Studios are every year proving that they are the George R.R. Martin of the game developer world. The more their fans ask for the one thing that they desperately want, the less interest they have in actually doing it. You have a game studio that has a ridiculously dedicated fan base that desperately want to play their next game, and they are so arrogant in that unyielding support that they don't feel the need to ever release it. Instead, they feel comfortable enough that they can waste the better part of a decade developing a new franchise, this time in Starfield, that feels like Joe Biden throwing out the opening pitch in America's most boring and pointless sport. Not only can he not propel the ball with any force or accuracy to the spot which it needs to go, but nobody is interested in him doing so. So what was the point? Starfield, a game that I wasn't particularly excited for because sci-fi games fall rather low on my hierarchy of game needs, was, at least for a month or so, a sleeper success for me. I had zero expectations going in, and I let that catch me off guard, and I blundered into the mistake of letting my short-term enjoyment of the game convince me that it was, in fact, a good game. But it's not a good game. It's not a mediocre game. It's not even a bad game. Starfield is a slap in the face to longtime Bethesda fans. It's a game that says, do not wait for the next one. This is their answer to our endless requests for the next game that we've actually been waiting for. The answer is no. We aren't going to release it anytime soon. We will take however much time we want, because you've already made our company billions of dollars, so we're no longer hungry or in a hurry. We will milk our existing titles until the teats are dry, raw, and cracking from the unrelented yanking that we're giving them. And then we'll release something so bland and soulless that you'll just wander back to one of our old games after paying $70 for the pleasure of another untouched game in your ever-expanding game library. You will wait decades for our next game, and when you play it, you will feel the contempt that we have for it and for you, because we've included that in every line of our code. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and that you'll accept my deepest and most heartfelt apologies for being such an utter fool in my first impressions review. At heart, I am an open-minded person who is always willing to extend the benefit of the doubt over and over again, and in many cases, this one included, it has resulted in a dagger thrust to my foolish, forgiving, and congenitally defective heart. Let me know your thoughts on the subject down in the comments section below, and let's hopefully move on from this experience better and wiser than we went into it. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.